those things on there. I can do the timer thing on there or whatever. Yep. What's it? Good. Phone on mute. Silence.
Got it on silence.
Always goes off. You don't want it to. Good to see everybody. All right. And 3, 2, 1, and go. And folks, welcome back to your Frederick Real Estate Update. I am Darren Ahern with RE/MAX Results, bringing you over 21 years experience on this beautiful Saturday in the Maryland and PA region. And also have with me the man, the myth, the legend, the guy right here, my wingman from Presidential Bank Mortgage.
Terry Kernan.
How we doing, buddy?
Couldn't be better.
End of September.
Can't believe it.
9 months in the books.
Can't believe it. It was 3 weeks ago, Joey and Molly got married, and it just goes by so quickly. And today my nephew gets married. Dennis and Courtney are getting married. So got a lot going on, but it's just flying by, isn't it?
Yep, 2024 coming down the home stretch here, boys and girls. So thanks you guys so much for tuning in. On WFMD.com in the drop-down menu, make sure you guys are able to go under your Frederick Real Estate Update for the programs. And we are going to have now, Terry, 377 programs. So, all right, let's get right on into it. A lot of things happening in the real estate market, mortgage world as well. Terry, real quick, numbers 449. That's the amount of homes for sale in Frederick County. 449.
Creeping up.
We are getting up there every single week, about 10 to 15 homes or more. So that's what I've been telling sellers. I just had 2 settlements this last week, 2 more listing appointments, and I've been sharing that with everybody, and some new buyers that I've been talking with and starting to get interested in jumping back into the market a little bit or getting in, asking a lot of questions, and we're going to let you talk about that with all the interest rates. But as far as this is concerned, the biggest thing I see, Terry, right now is out of probably 40 or 50 buyer searches I have going on right now, everybody finally is starting to get a little bit more inventory than we've seen in the last year or two. And I told them it's only going to get hopefully more and more and more, because we're still short. We still need hundreds and hundreds of more homes to come on in general, but it's fine. So coming soon, 78. That's a big number for right now.
That's a high number.
Yeah, that's been climbing a little bit too. Resale homes, 339. This is the big one. 51 days average time on the market now.
So we crossed over the 50.
We crossed over the 50. Yep, okay. Things are taking longer. Things are slowing down. Prices are not coming down as a whole, though, okay? Now, I just had a client give me a referral for a family member in Montgomery County down there in Germantown, and, looking up that stuff, it's a whole different ballgame than Frederick County. And we're going to click onto some of them numbers too. People want to know what the numbers are for down in South County there. But 51 days is where we're at. 517 median price, 613 average. Resale single family homes, 213, 58 days on the market with a 590 median and a 717 average price. Townhouse and type condos, 125 of those for sale at 38 days on the market. 415 is the median and 438 is the average sale price. For those asking price, I should say. New construction, 110. I think we're always going to be like just over 100. 57 single family homes at 795 and 880 as the average. So median is 795, really flat. That's the thing we've been saying. 53 townhouses at 509 and a 534 average. Under contract, 454 of those, 175 brand new builds under contract, 279 resales with 24 days in the market and an average of 506. Single family new builds under contract. For the single family new ones, 62 of those and 785. So that's what I mean. 785, 795, bouncing in those areas. So sold in the last 30 days, 284 homes. 248 are resales with an 18-day on market at 529 average. And the single family homes, the brand new ones, 36 of those single families, or 11 of them, at a 788. So there we go. It's right all in line pretty much. And townhouses, 502. So that's been really flat. We got above that 500, but we've been really flat there. The key thing is we've seen a little bit of adjustment to the list to sale price ratios at 99.6. So very, very flat. There you go.
Wow. So I was in Florida last week, and
yeah, you sure you don't want to be there today, this week? No.
I know. Yes,
they just passed on by. They got hammered.
But wherever I go, no matter where I go, I always look at how much real estate costs. Even if I'm in Ireland, I want to check out how much real estate
You
costs.
sound like a real estate agent.
Yeah. So the one thing I did notice in Florida was prices are dropping.
Yep.
We're not starting to see that, but the 99.6 sold to list price is showing that prices are settling down.
Yeah, they
I
are.
wouldn't say that they're tanking or anything like that, but Florida has seen some big, huge adjustments that I took a look at. And, a lot of it was unrealistic, but I think what we're seeing here is, the supply's going up because the demand is not there. I think the phone has definitely started to ring with people jumping off the sidelines.
Oh yeah, you're seeing that. So let's talk about that. What are you seeing out there? Where are rates at right now? They've been, I had to explain again to some people. They were like, wait a minute, interest rates, the Fed, they cut the rate by 0.5 point. And then we saw mortgages go up a little bit. And I said, yep, did exactly what I said it was going to do.
Yep.
It did exactly what we thought. And from this point on now, we've probably crested on that and then baking it back in for future stuff. I heard the Fed's going to meet, Terry, right after the election, like the 6th or 7th of November. They're going to meet and announce everything. So that ought to be really interesting to literally be announcing a next cut, if any, literally within 48 hours after the election. So talk about that.
So right now, there's not enough. First of all, a fair amount of people reached out to me to thank me for helping persuade the Federal Reserve to cut it a half. Okay.
Yes.
They were only going to cut it a quarter, but they're big listeners of the show, especially Jay Pell, and so not a big deal. But this is what I'm seeing or feeling for the next cut. Is it's going to depend, obviously, on the data that's coming out, and the big data that's coming out starting next week. Like every month we talk about, the last Saturday of the month, we always talk about the first Friday of the month that's coming up. What happens there? Unemployment figures. So the reason that they cut it a half, and the reason that I talked about, was they had to get ahead of the jobs market. They had to get ahead of the unemployment that was starting to creep up. We have a lot of signs pointing to a recession right now, and they're trying to not go into that recession. So that's why they went with the 0.5 point cut, is because they felt that, like I had said on the show many times, you got to get ahead of the jobs market. Unemployment's creeping up. So what's happening in the jobs market? There's not a lot of people losing their jobs, but there's not a lot of people getting jobs. So the jobs numbers that comes out next Friday, the 4th, October 4th, is going to be a huge number. The following week, we're going to go back to that cycle. The Consumer Price Index, the CPI, and the PPI. Those are the three things that really dictate what happens with rates during the month. So as we talked about last week, is yes, the Fed cut by a half. It was much needed, in my opinion. And when they cut it, it also brought some good feeling to the market. So we saw an improvement in our stocks, right? Where do they get that money to put into the stock market? They took it out of the safe haven of the bonds. I talk about this a lot, and that's why the rates went up temporarily. Now, what's going to change and keep the momentum going down is, I believe, that when we see the jobs numbers next week, and I believe the CPI and the PPI. So the momentum is still downwards. It has gone up a little bit of a speed bump. But if you are looking to refinance, now is not the time, in my opinion, to refinance unless you have to. But now is the time to get your loan in the queue, getting ready to refinance. Now, people say, well, it must be the time to refinance because I'm getting calls from Rocket Mortgage. I'm getting calls from him and her, and all these people are calling to refi me. Let me be very clear. When they call you and when they talk you into refinance, they are going to make a commission. They are making a commission. They're not as interested in whether it's a good deal for you.
Right.
They're interested if it's a good deal for them.
Yes.
Okay. So be very careful with the refinances. Now is not the exact time to lock in because the momentum is going downwards. We are at the top of a rate cutting cycle.
Yeah, we are.
Okay?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
We're at the very top of a rate cutting cycle. Rates are going to be coming down. So get ready to refinance, but don't pull that trigger, please. And you're going to get bombarded. You're also not going to be told a lot of times the actual costs of what the refinance is.
That's a big one. Talk about that.
It could be up to $20,000 that they could pile onto your loan to get you into refinancing to get a lower rate. That is because people get fixated on what? Rate.
Yep, they do.
They want their rate the lowest that possibly can be. And so I'm willing to finance it, into the loan. It's kind of like when you trade a car in and you're underwater on that car and they put it on the new payment and you do all that. And they say, are you comfortable with that? And you say, yeah, but what you don't know is you just got really added on and you're never going to get out from under this car.
Yeah. It's how long it goes on. And that's the thing with refinances is, Terry, how many people have paid, I don't know, 5 years in or whatever it is, and then they go back to a 30 again. And so I think it's safe to look at, I'm sure you do, you run the numbers on, let's say they've been in a home 5 years and you run it with 25 year, like we're not adding no more time to your mortgage. And then if we did, what's that look like with a lower interest rate now or whatever? And then what's it look like if you did a 20 year instead of 25? Like how much? And then some people say, you know what, I'm okay. Would it ever make sense? Here's my question. Would it ever make sense if your payment was pretty much the same? Let's say it's $2,500 a month. But you were able to chop off, say, 7 years or 8 years of the time frame, and that lower payment. I mean, the payment's the exact same because the interest rate came down. Is that ever a smart move at all? Do you ever see anybody kind of do that strategic thing? Or is it best to just keep what you have and keep making extra payments like biweekly or more?
A lot of times, Darren, it depends on a personality. Okay. And I'm going to go over a couple of personalities. First person is a stable analytic person.
Okay.
That's somebody that's going to evaluate everything that is going on with the new loan. Okay. And they're basically going to take a look and say, and I have these customers that exact situation. They said, well, Terry, we're tired of paying all this interest and not enough principal. So we want to refi, but we want to refi into a 15-year mortgage. Okay. Because that really gets to us that we have to pay all that interest. So we're going to refinance them. We're going to pull the trigger when it's right. When it comes time to get them into the 15-year mortgage, we're going to do that. That's totally fine. Then you have the other person that is just kind of like, I need the lowest possible payment because I've stretched myself when I bought this house. Fine.
Yep.
Resetting to a 30 years, what's going to put them in the comfort level. Okay. Then you got the person in between that says, you know what? I don't want to lose the 5 years that I've been paying. Let's go ahead with a 25-year mortgage. Okay. So every situation is different. But if you have a conventional loan and somebody calls you about a refi and they offer you this unbelievable rate, there's usually something attached to it.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of times where the people that call you for refis, they're going to try to talk you into, and it's not very hard to talk you into it, but they're going to get you an FHA mortgage. Why are they going to get you an FHA mortgage? Because they can get you a better rate.
Yep.
It's not necessarily a better payment because it's going to come with mortgage insurance for the life of the loan. So don't be fooled by that. Make sure that you know exactly what you're getting into. I'll be more than happy to help anybody. Talk about a refinance, set up a refinance, do a refinance, whatever you want to do, I can help with. But please be very, very careful when you're out there because every situation is going to be different. Not everybody wants the same goal.
Yeah. There you go, guys. Make sure at the end you get Terry's information. As always, give him a call. He'll do a free whole entire rundown of every scenario you can think of so that you can be, and the biggest thing, Terry, is like you said, even not pulling the trigger now, down the road, when that time comes and it's best for your particular situation, but you're in that, the bottom line is you're ready to go. That's the nice part. You're not scrambling to put bullets in the gun, if you will. You're ready to just pull the trigger. And obviously the biggest question I can only imagine everybody's going to ask is, how do we know when we're at the bottom, the lowest rates are going to be? in this next cycle before they go back up? No one knows, guys. There's not a person that knows that at all. You got to, it's like the stock market and everything else. So, but in my prediction, I had said in next year, 2025, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we get the, 5.75 with a conventional loan, maybe even 5.5. But I will be stunned if we get below 550 simply because of the dynamics of our economy and the inflationary. Who wants to add more inflation? That means milk, groceries, gas, everything in your life goes up outside of mortgages that are fixed. So you don't want inflation, and we don't want to do anything like that. So,
well, let me add to that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I keep an eye on, which does make a big difference, is the cost of oil.
Okay? Of course, yep.
And back in July, oil was running at like $85 a barrel. May, it was like $97 a barrel, just under $100. Today, it's selling for $68 a barrel. Huge improvement. So in my mind, so much is related to the cost of energy.
Yep.
When it comes to inflation, and I've said it on the show many times, is get the cost of oil, get the cost of gasoline. Now, the reason that the production is going to be increased by the Saudi government, they're going to increase production, which will put more supply in, which is lowering the cost of the oil. And that's what we needed to do from the very start of this inflation, was get the cost of oil, which obviously is gasoline, but there's so much that goes into our economy that is energy related, oil related, gas related, whatever the case. And that is the number that I look at that makes me the happiest out of all these numbers that they throw at us.
Yeah.
Because I know that number is going to be so directly related to getting inflation under control. And
even though I'm not an expert on this, I still say, Terry, drill, baby, drill. We need to start getting away from everybody, be self-sufficient, get our own oil out of our own ground, which we have the reserves almost the most in the world, I read. And if that's all true, we can update our refineries and get past all the red tape and somehow get the big business, big oil companies who are very greedy, and everybody at those tops are somehow, some way. No one seems to be able to get a handle on it to look at the goodness of everybody, because I personally think somehow, some way, we could get gas down to $1 or less a gallon, and all of a sudden everybody is going to win in the end of the day as far as us little Americans. And but that's just a pipe dream apparently, but who knows? Maybe somebody will get it done one day. All right, let's get into the real estate world. 3 big more questions out of the top 22 questions buyers and sellers and renters have for real estate, Terry. Here's one of them. Here is, what is EMD? What's this EMD? Y'all real estate agents running around with all these codes and these lenders, right? You know what an EMD is, right?
I deal with it every day.
Yeah, Earnest Deposit Monies. It's good faith Earnest Deposit Money. What does that work? How does it work? All right, whenever you offer on a property, a buyer must submit a good faith amount that they're going to dedicate that comes into the offer towards the purchase, and it has to be done at the time of the offer. It's non-negotiable. And the biggest thing we get is, I thought my deposit, my down payment was my deposit. No, those are completely separate issues. This is the initial good faith deposit that you're going to put into the mix, and that money doesn't even get, Terry, deposited unless the seller accepts your offer. It's just a number. But here's the thing: everybody wants to know, how much is it? I always say typically 1% of the purchase price. You really don't want to do less than that. Sometimes you can do more. The biggest thing about it is the factor of that is, well, that's risky. What happens if it's a $500,000 home and I put $10,000 or $20,000 down payment? We see that more and more to be more competitive. If you're in a multiple offer situation, I have advised buyers, go up. It's okay if you have it. Here's why. I've never had a buyer lose their deposit, because we are going to usually build in the contingencies with inspections and the appraisal. And, if there's an HOA or condo, of course, you can get out of it just based on those figures and the HOA bylaws, rules, regulations, and all those. And you don't even have to give a reason. You just get out. You get your deposit back, whatever amount that is. So I always have that conversation up front with buyers in my consultation. It's in my document stuff that I send out to everybody. These are the things you got to know up front and pay attention to, that you are already ready to go. This isn't going to be a surprise. We're sitting there writing an offer, and then I tell you, hey, look, you're going to have to put up, $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 from the front end. and be able to have that be a deposit if the seller's acceptance. And then a buyer says, wait a minute, you never told me that. I don't even have it. And the other reason why that's so important, Terry, is because when it comes to the amount of cash that someone's going to have based on their down payment, the loan type, right, with you guys, and then based on closing costs and everything like that. So that's really important to know about. What are your thoughts?
My thought is the earnest money deposit, like you said, is usually around 1%. But what happens in my world a lot is a younger person that doesn't have a checkbook has a check signed by mom and dad or for the earnest money deposit.
Okay.
That is okay to do, but it has to be shown as a gift.
Yes.
Just to
you're
let
right.
you know that. So, if mom and dad write the check, or I'm buying a condo, or, John Smith's buying a condo with his girlfriend and the girlfriend writes the check, it's going to be a gift from her to him, whatever the case may be. So that's the one thing on the EMD is it's not a big deal. Don't freak out.
Nope.
We just have to show it as a gift if somebody else writes your EMD, and that gets back credited to you at settlement. So it goes towards what you owe or what you need to bring.
Yeah. And this 9 out of 10 times, guys, now in the digital world that we live in, these are all held in escrow. Almost no with Remax or our brokerages or others. We pretty much hold those with the title company that you're going to be settling with. And those get wired. There's wire instructions, and that's a whole nother show in itself. I just had a client yesterday do a settlement and had from one to the next. They just wired $380,000. That's when you call, and that's when the title company 5 times checks the numbers of the other one to make sure it doesn't go into somebody's account where they wake up this morning, Terry, and go, must have got a pay raise. I got $380,000 extra in my account. Somebody loves me. Santa Claus came early, right? And then you're sitting there scrambling, where in the heck did it go? So, and there's a lot of fraud and scams out there, and we're going to talk on the whole program about that and making sure how you don't have that happen to you, because boy, it's serious. All right, so how do we lose it? What if I lose? Under what circumstances? Well, like I said, if you get through all your inspections, the whole 9 yards and everything, you lose it. Like if you are committed loan approval and then you change your mind, you're like, oh, I don't want the house. You're going to lose your good faith earnest deposit, no doubt, and you could possibly be sued. And that's on coming up with our next question, which says, what happens if I decide to back out of the home? This is one of the main questions. What happens if I decide to back out of the home? It depends on when you back out, why you back out. Consequences vary. During the contingency periods, you get your deposit back. And that means, if you don't come to an agreement with a home inspection, if you don't agree with the HOA rules, regulations, and all those things like that, if you somehow, by not a fault of your own, you don't get your loan approved, whatever it is that's built that we have in the contracts that are escape hatches, I always call them, the more escape hatches, the safer your deposit is, and the less there are. So what happens if I don't do an inspection? Well, that one's not there then. What happens if I waive my appraisal? Well, that one's not there. What happens if I waive my financing contingency? Well, then there's nothing. If there's no HOA, no nothing, that's like jumping out of a plane. Practically, I'm guessing if I have a parachute on my back or not, right? I don't know if I strapped it on. I can't remember. I'm halfway down. Well, let's pull this one string that's right here and see if it works. And sometimes there's no strings left. There it is. And so the consequences vary in that regard. Here's the big thing that I always explain to buyers. If you wake up that day or 2 days or 3 days before settlement, because it's normally in that time frame, and you say, you know what, we just don't feel comfortable. We want to buy the house. I know we put down $5,000 deposit. It's cool. We don't like it, but we got cold feet. There's a gazillion reasons I've heard of people doing this. I had one person that threatened to do it, and I was able to talk them into, no, you really don't want to do this. And there was enough evidence to show them this is going to be really, really bad for you, and you're going to be okay. You just got cold feet. Roll over, go to bed. You had a nightmare. You're fine. And they ended up thanking me later for them going through the contract to say I'm buying the house, and they were okay. But that doesn't happen every time, Terry. The biggest thing I always say is you could have a lawsuit. It's not just losing your deposit. The seller, the seller has a right to come after you and sue you for damages. And you're going to be like, what damages are there? Well, you took their home off the market for like 25, 30, 40 days almost or more, and they didn't have a chance to get another buyer. So they have what are known as ownership costs, carry costs, and Yeah, they also have stress. It's like emotional abuse damage in their mind. And so, yeah, they literally, for whatever reason they want to choose, a seller can come after you for more than just that deposit, and it can get ugly really fast. I have heard, Terry, of sellers suing a buyer for not going through with the contract. I've already heard of a $25,000 one, and the buyer, they call us, as agents that are like, help me out. Help me get out of this. I can't help you. I can't help you. This is why we always say, if there's something in the contract you don't understand, Terry, what's the words? Seek legal counsel. We're not attorneys. We act like it. We think we are at times because we deal with legal stuff all day, but we're not bona fide, legitimate, qualified attorneys to do that. So you got to seek legal counsel. I always point people to that, and then let them help you make that decision on how much damage you want done to your life because you've changed your mind. Okay. I wish relationships were like that. That'd be amazing. Anyways, I had to slip that in there. How much will I have to pay in closing costs, Terry? This is a big one. We could spend more in the next show, maybe. Depends on the loan type. If you're paying cash, it lowers your closing costs by not having, certain fees from lender side and all those things like that. But on an average, I always tell people, good rule of thumb of the sale price, 4 to 4.5% of the sale price are about your closing costs and all that. And those fees are state taxes. If you're a first-time home buyer, Terry, what happens?
So if you're a first-time home buyer, the transfer taxes, if you're a first-time Maryland home buyer,
there you go.
Then you are waived the 0.5% fee that Maryland charges, but the seller still has to pay theirs.
Yep. And the thing we get all the time, we got 1 minute left. Well, I haven't owned a house in 10 years. Does this mean I qualify and I get it waived? No. If you've ever bought a house in Maryland, it doesn't get waived. If you were on there are some exceptions, I think, though, to what happens if I didn't buy a house, but I'm going to buy a house with my partner, but my partner bought a house. What the heck? Do we pay that? Do we get it waived or not? What happens, Terry?
You have to pay it. If anybody on the deed,
say the words.
Anybody on the deed has owned a Maryland home, then they are responsible for paying full transfer tax.
There you go. And so we also have the state recordation tax, lending fees, title fees, our broker fees, HOA, escrows, taxes, reserves. Terry, I just had one the other day, and we had notary, there's like 40 items that equal it, and at the bottom of the funnel, let's just say 4.5%. That's your closing cost. So, all right, folks, have an awesome weekend. Thanks so much, as always, for tuning into your Frederick Real Estate Update. Terry and I are each here every week. And to help you guys out, we thank you for all of our listeners. And we'll see you next time. Let everybody know about us. Thanks. Thank you, guys.